English learners. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to be talking about a very special topic.
That's right. This topic was actually suggested by one of our listeners.
Exactly. So keep those comments coming because we want to create lessons that you need, that you want.
Exactly.
So what are we talking about today?
Today's lesson is about applying for a visa.
A very, very important topic.
Yes, and specifically, it's about a visa interview.
Exactly. As you all probably know, when you apply for a visa, especially for the US, you have an interview.
Yes.
Where you have to answer some questions.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So before we jump into the dialogue, let's take a look at vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
Okay, so let's talk about visa.
Right. A visa, it's not a credit card.
No, not Visa or MasterCard.
No. So a visa is an official document that you get in your passport that allows you to travel legally to a country.
Exactly. So with this document, you can go into a country. Okay, so we have different types of visas. Today, we're going to be talking about a B2 visa.
Right. A B2 visa is a tourist visa.
A tourist visa.
Yeah.
This is only for the United States. Other countries may have different classifications for their visas, but B2 is for the United States.
Right. So, Marco, we use a tourist visa when we want to be a tourist and just travel in the US. What about a resident visa?
Well, you can have a temporary resident visa. Like, for example, an F1.
Yep.
An F1 is for foreign exchange students who go and live in the States maybe for a year or do a MBA for 2 years or 3 years. So that's an F1 visa. You can also get a J1 visa, which is a temporary exchange visitor.
Okay.
So it could be to maybe do some temporary work for 2 or 3 months and then go back to your country.
So basically, a resident visa allows you to live in that country.
Yeah, you can live in that country legally for a determined time. Okay, so let's listen to our dialogue. Where are we going to be exactly?
In this dialogue, we're going to hear two people, a visa officer and a person who's applying for the visa. Now, the person who's applying for the visa has an accent, right?
Yes.
But this is really good practice for helping you to understand people with different accents.
Exactly. So let's listen to the dialogue and then we'll come back and explain all the great vocabulary.
So you're applying for a B2 visa. Where's your final destination and what's the purpose of your trip to the United States?
I'm going to visit my brother. He's just had a baby. He lives in Minneapolis.
And how long do you plan to remain in the United States?
I'll be here for approximately 3 weeks. So here's my return ticket for the 26th of March.
And who's sponsoring your trip?
My brother. Here. This is an invitation letter from him. I will stay with him and his family in their home.
All right. Tell me about the ties you have to your home country.
Well, I own a house. Actually, I'm leaving my dog there with my neighbors. I have a car at home. And my job? I'm employed by Tornell as an engineer. Actually, I only have 3 weeks vacation, so I have to go back to work at the end of March.
And what evidence do you have that you are financially independent?
Well, I do have assets in my country. Like I said, I own a house and see, here's a bank statement showing my investments and my bank balance.
I'm sorry, sir. We cannot grant you a B2 visa at this time. Instead, you are granted a resident visa. Congratulations! You are the millionth person to apply for a visa. You win! Congratulations!
Yay!
All right, what a lucky guy. He applied for a tourist visa and now he's getting a resident visa.
Yeah, that's great. But does this really happen,
No.
Marco?
No, that would never happen at a consulate.
Okay, well, we can dream that this might happen for us.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's take a look at the words in language takeaway today.
Language takeaway.
All right, on language takeaway, we have sponsoring.
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 So, Erica, what does it mean to sponsor somebody?
When you sponsor somebody for a visa, you take care of them and make sure they have enough money.
Okay.
So you are the one who's responsible for all of their expenses and making sure they just have enough money.
Okay. So for example, when I was 16, I made a trip to another country.
Yep.
And my parents were my sponsors.
So they took responsibility for your money.
Exactly. Okay. Let's look at our next word. Invitation letter.
Invitation letter.
Invitation letter.
Invitation letter.
Now, this is a really important part for a visa application.
Yes, very important.
What is an invitation letter?
Well, an invitation letter is a formal letter that a friend or a relative or maybe a business writes to ask you to come to their country.
Exactly. So you're being invited for a specific purpose to the United States.
Yeah, and you have to give this letter to the visa officer.
Okay. Invitation letter. Our next word. Ties.
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 Looks exactly like tie, like the one you wear in your suit.
Not quite the same, though.
All right, so what are ties?
The ties you have to your country are the things that keep you attached to your country.
Okay.
That make sure that you will return to your country.
Okay, so what are some examples of ties?
Like maybe a house or a wife or a child or maybe some money in your bank account.
Okay.
Or a job even.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, a good way to think of this is imagine like a rope that's attached to you and tying you to your country, to your house, to your job, to your kids.
Okay, so you can't run away.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, that was clear, but let's listen to some more examples of how we would use ties.
Example 1.
I sold my house and closed my bank account. I don't have any more ties to my home country.
Example 2.
Alvin enjoyed being single. He wasn't ready for the ties of family life.
Example 3.
Diplomatic relations have improved, and the ties between the two countries are stronger.
All right, it's clear now. Let's look at our next word. Financially independent.
Financially independent.
Financially independent.
Financially independent.
So that means that you don't need anyone.
That you have enough money.
You have enough money for yourself.
Right. So you don't have to ask your parents to pay for your ticket or pay for your food or whatever.
Okay. And our last word for today. Assets.
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 Okay, so your assets are kind of like your ties.
Right. There are things of value that you own, things that are expensive that you own in your home country.
So it would be a house,
Yep.
a car,
Yep. Maybe stocks or investments.
Okay, so all of those things are your assets. Okay, so we've seen a lot of great words, and I think it's time for us to listen to our dialogue again. We're going to slow it down for you.
Yeah, this will help you understand it a little bit better.
So, you're applying for a B2 visa. Where is your final destination, and what is the purpose of your trip to the United States?
I'm going to visit my brother. He's just had a baby. He lives in Minneapolis.
And how long do you plan to remain in the United States?
I'll be here for approximately 3 weeks. See, here's my return ticket for the 26th of March.
And who is sponsoring your trip?
My brother. Here. This is an invitation letter from him. I'll stay with him and his family in their home.
All right. Tell me about the ties you have to your home country.
Well, I own a house. Actually, I'm leaving my dog there with my neighbors. I have a car at home and my job. I'm employed by Tornell as an engineer. Actually, I only have 3 weeks vacation, so I have to go back to work at the end of March.
And what evidence do you have that you are financially independent?
Well, I do have assets in my country. Like I said, I own a house. And see, here's a bank statement showing my investments and my bank balance.
I'm sorry, sir. We cannot grant you a B2 visa at this time. Instead, You are granted a resident visa. Congratulations! You are the millionth person to apply for a visa. You win! Congratulations!
Yay!
Okay, today we're not going to do our regular toolkit like Fluency Builder or putting it together.
No, we're going to do something a little bit different today.
We're going to talk about the questions you will probably be asked at an interview for a U.S. visa.
Yes.
And the useful language that you can use to answer these questions in a good way. Okay, so let's take a look at our first question.
Where is your final destination, and what is the purpose of your trip to the United States? Where is your final destination, and what is the purpose of your trip to the United States?
So this is probably going to be the first question the interviewer is going to ask you.
Yeah, so Marco, I know you have a lot of experience with U.S. visas. How should we answer this question?
Well, it depends on what you're doing, right?
Right.
So if you're a tourist, you would say, I'm going on vacation to New York or anywhere. Also, if you're visiting a family member, like in our dialogue, you would say, oh, I'm going to visit my sister or my brother or my cousin. If you're applying for a business visa, then you would say, oh, I'm going to visit a company or etc.
Right.
So you just have to say why you are going to the States.
Now, is it important to be really specific?
Yeah, the more specific you are, it's probably better. So if you can name the state and the city where you're going, it's much better.
Okay. All right. Well, let's listen to our next question.
How long do you plan to remain in the United States? How long do you plan to remain in the United States?
Okay, so this is a really important question also because in your application, you have to put how long you plan to stay in the U.S.
Right.
It's a pretty straightforward answer. 2 months, 1 month, 3 weeks.
Right. But you just have to make sure that your answer matches
what's written in your application form.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, now let's take a look at our last question.
Tell me about the ties you have to your home country. Tell me about the ties you have to your home country.
Well, I think this is maybe the most important question that they'll ask you, right?
Yeah, this is the most important question. This is what the interviewer is most interested in.
Okay, so why is he interested in this?
Because he has to be sure that you will not become an illegal immigrant to the United States.
So that you will return to your home country.
Exactly. He or she has to be convinced that you're going to return to your home country.
So how can you convince him?
Basically by demonstrating your ties.
So showing the things that will pull you back to your home country.
So if you take documents to support this, bank statements, maybe a copy of your mortgage.
Yep, like maybe your wedding certificate.
I don't know, even a letter from your office, from your job.
So that shows that you have to return to your work.
The more things you bring, the better, even though the interviewer might not ask for the documents.
Okay, it's better to be safe, right?
Exactly.
So come with a huge file full of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've had friends who've arrived to the embassy with a huge file of documents and weren't asked to show any of the documents.
Right.
But other interviewers will maybe ask for it. Okay, so now let's listen to the dialogue again.
And you'll hear how our traveler answers these questions.
So you're applying for a B2 visa. Where's your final destination, and what's the purpose of your trip to the United States?
I'm going to visit my brother. He's just had a baby. He lives in Minneapolis.
And how long do you plan to remain in the United States?
I'll be here for approximately 3 weeks. So here's my return ticket for the 26th of March.
And who's sponsoring your trip?
My brother. Here. This is an invitation letter from him. I will stay with him and his family in their home.
All right. Tell me about the ties you have to your home country.
Well, I own a house. Actually, I'm leaving my dog there with my neighbors. I have a car at home. And my job? I'm employed by Tornell as an engineer. Actually, I only have 3 weeks vacation, so I have to go back to work at the end of March.
And what evidence do you have that you are financially independent?
Well, I do have assets in my country. Like I said, I own a house, and see, here's a bank statement showing my investments and my bank balance.
I'm sorry, sir. We cannot grant you a B2 visa at this time. Instead, you are granted a resident visa. Congratulations. You are the millionth person to apply for a visa. You win. Congratulations.
Well, I hope this was a useful lesson for all of our listeners, because I'm sure that in one point or another, in the future, you're going to apply for a visa. So now you know all the language that you need to more or less answer all these questions that you're going to be asked.
Yes. And Marco, I'm sure that people have already applied for visas for the US, right?
Probably, yeah.
And I want to hear from our users any stories that they have about applying for a visa.
Yeah, that would be great. I know that I have some stories to share on the comments board. And we want to hear your questions and comments and any suggestions.
So visit our website at englishpod.com, and Marco and I will be there to respond to you and answer your questions. Well, everyone, thanks for listening, and until next time,
Goodbye.
Hi, welcome. Are you ready to listen to our story? I remember the moment I decided to apply for a US visa. It wasn't just a random idea. I had a purpose. My brother had just welcomed his first baby, and I wanted to be there not just as a visitor, but as a real part of that beautiful moment in his life. That decision led me on a journey that taught me more than I ever imagined, not just about travel or paperwork, but about confidence, preparation, and clear communication in English. I began by researching everything I could about the visa process. One word kept appearing: interview. I realized quickly that this short meeting could change everything. So, I made it my mission to be ready, not just to speak English, but to speak it well, naturally, and convincingly. The first thing I learned was how important it is to clearly express the purpose of your visit. The visa officer will ask, "Why do you want to visit the US?" You can't just say, "To see my brother." That's not enough. You need to say something specific like, "I want to visit my brother in Minneapolis. He and his wife recently had a baby, and I plan to spend time with them for 3 weeks." Being detailed shows honesty and planning. It's also powerful to use time expressions like for approximately 3 weeks or from March 5th to March 26th. These phrases make your answers sound clear and professional. One great tip: practice your answer out loud many times. Use phrases like, "The purpose of my trip is," "I plan to stay for a round," "My final destination is." Practicing these phrases will help you feel more confident and fluent. Even if your English isn't perfect, what matters most is your effort, preparation, and clear structure. At that moment, I didn't just feel like someone applying for a visa. I felt like someone who was learning to express themselves better, someone who could speak with purpose, and someone who was growing. And that felt amazing. The next challenge I faced was preparing to answer how long I planned to stay in the United States. This question seems easy, but it's one of the most important parts of the interview. The visa officer wants to know that you have a clear plan and that you don't intend to stay longer than allowed. I practiced saying my answer in a calm, confident tone. I will stay for approximately 3 weeks. I already have a return ticket booked for March 26th. That one sentence showed 2 things: the length of my trip and the proof that I would return. Simple, but powerful. One tip I want to share: always match what you say to what is written in your application form. If the officer sees a difference between your words and your documents, it could be a problem. Accuracy matters a lot. I also learned useful phrases like, "I have a round-trip ticket," "My stay will last for about," "I'm returning on." These expressions not only show your English skills, but also give confidence to the person interviewing you. Remember, they are not trying to scare you. They just want to know you have a plan. While practicing, I recorded myself speaking. At first, I made mistakes. I hesitated. I forgot words, but I didn't stop. With each try, I got better. And that's when I realized something powerful. The best way to learn English is by doing it again and again, especially in real situations. Speaking English clearly is not about using big words. It's about being honest, direct, and well prepared. That's what I focused on. So as I sat at my desk with my return ticket in hand, I wasn't just preparing for a visa interview. I was preparing for something bigger, confidence in communication, in English, and in myself. As I continued preparing for the interview, I knew the next big question would be about sponsorship. Who is sponsoring your trip? This question can feel a little formal, but it's very important. The visa officer wants to know if someone is supporting your travel expenses or if you are paying for yourself. In my case, my brother was my sponsor, so I practiced how to explain that clearly. I said, "My brother is sponsoring my trip. He sent me an invitation letter, and I'll stay with him and his family in their home." That sentence included everything: the sponsor, the letter, and my accommodation. The phrase invitation letter is key. It shows that your trip has a real purpose and that someone in the US is expecting you. The invitation letter should include details like who you are visiting, where you will stay, and how long you will stay. Here are some useful phrases that I used. This is an invitation letter from my sponsor. I will stay with my relatives at their home in Minneapolis. My sponsor will cover the cost of accommodation and food. Practicing these phrases helped me sound more fluent and confident. Even if your grammar isn't perfect, showing that you understand what the question means and giving a full answer is very impressive. I also realized that pronunciation matters. I practiced saying sponsoring, invitation, and accommodation slowly, then faster. Listening to native speakers and repeating after them helped me sound more natural. This whole process wasn't just about passing an interview. It was about improving the way I communicate important ideas in English. I was building a skill that would help me not just in this moment, but in future job interviews, phone calls, or even making new friends abroad. Preparing for this part made me feel more in control. I had my invitation letter printed and ready, and I had practiced explaining everything in clear English. I felt ready, and that feeling was amazing. After preparing my answers about the purpose of my trip, the duration of my stay, and the sponsorship, I turned my focus to one of the most critical questions. What ties do you have to your home country? At first, I didn't fully understand what ties meant. But after doing some research, I realized it's about the strong connections I have to my country, reasons why I will return after visiting the US. The visa officer needs to know that I'm not planning to stay in the US illegally. So, my job was to prove that I have a life I want to come back to. I thought about all the ties I had: my job, my home, my car, my family, and even my dog. I practiced saying something like, I work as an engineer at Tornell and I only have a 3-week vacation. I also own a house and a car, and my dog is staying with my neighbors while I'm away. Every word was true, and that truth gave me confidence. Useful vocabulary and phrases I practiced. I am employed full-time at. I own property in my home country. I have family and responsibilities that I must return to. I even included small but powerful details like, I'm leaving my dog with my neighbors. It may sound funny, but it's real. It shows I'm not planning to disappear. This part of the interview taught me a lot about how to express responsibility and commitment in English. I learned to use clear phrases to talk about my job and life. I said things like, I have a stable position at my company. I'm expected back at work on March 28th. Learning how to talk about my life in this way made me appreciate everything I had at home. And it also gave me useful language I can use in many situations, not just at the embassy, but even in friendly conversations or when writing a formal email. The more I practiced, the more I saw improvement in my fluency and the way I built my sentences. I was no longer translating in my head. I was thinking in English, speaking with purpose, and showing who I really was. That's what language learning is all about. The next part of my preparation was focused on something many people forget, proving that I am financially independent. The visa officer will definitely want to know if you can support yourself during your trip, because if you can't, it's a big red flag. I needed to prepare my answer carefully. I practiced saying, I have my own savings and investments. I also own a house, and here is my bank statement showing my current balance. Saying this clearly and calmly can make a big difference in your interview. I also gathered real documents, my bank statement, proof of ownership of my house, and investment papers. Even if they didn't ask for them, I wanted to be prepared. Preparation brings confidence. While practicing, I learned these useful phrases. I am financially independent. I have sufficient funds to support my stay. Here is my recent bank statement showing my assets. The word assets became very important. I learned how to use it properly. Assets are valuable things you own, like a house, a car, or money in the bank. When you say, I have assets in my home country, it shows strength, stability, and responsibility. One trick that helped me was practicing with a mirror. I looked myself in the eyes and spoke clearly, just like I would to the visa officer. It helped reduce my nervousness and improve my tone. I wasn't just reading lines, I was speaking with meaning. The more I practiced, the more natural my English sounded. I used transitions like, in addition, moreover, as proof. These small linking words made my speech smoother and more professional. Learning how to talk about money and responsibility in English was a new experience for me. It's a skill I can now use in job interviews, financial discussions, or even while applying for scholarships or housing. Most of all, I started to see that improving my English wasn't just about grammar or vocabulary. It was about learning how to express my real life, my work, my plans, my values. And that's something truly powerful. As I went deeper into my preparation, I realized that the interview wasn't only about documents and answers. It was also about communication, my tone, my attitude, and the confidence in my voice. One of the most powerful lessons I learned was this: how you speak matters just as much as what you say. I began focusing on how to speak politely and professionally in English. When answering questions, I made sure to use formal, respectful language. Instead of just saying yes, I practiced saying, yes, sir, or yes, It's a small touch, but it shows respect and maturity. I also practice showing appreciation. For example, thank you for taking the time to review my documents. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. Phrases like these help create a positive impression. They show that you are not only fluent, but also culturally aware. That's something visa officers notice. Another important skill I practiced was staying calm under pressure. Sometimes, the visa officer might ask something unexpected or repeat a question in a different way. At first, I used to panic, but then I learned a simple trick: pause, breathe, and then respond clearly. I practiced saying, let me explain that again. I believe what you're asking is. I'd be happy to provide more details. These sentences gave me time to think without sounding nervous. I also focused on clarity. Speaking too fast or too softly can cause confusion. So, I worked on speaking slowly and clearly, especially when saying important details like names, dates, or places. I even practiced common pronunciation problems. For example, the word financial was hard for me at first. I said it again and again until it felt natural. That effort made me more confident during the real interview. And here's something important I learned: when you speak with confidence, people listen differently. They pay attention. They trust you more. So even though I was preparing for a visa interview, I was also becoming a better speaker, a better communicator, and a more confident version of myself. That, to me, was more valuable than any visa approval. It was a skill I could take anywhere in the world. One part of my preparation that made a huge difference was practicing real-life questions and answers out loud, just like a role play. I imagined myself sitting across from the visa officer with all the pressure, and I responded to each question in full, fluent English. This type of practice helped me speak naturally without memorizing lines. I didn't want to sound like a robot. I wanted to sound like me, but more confident and clear in English. I created a list of questions I thought I might be asked. What do you do for work? Why did you choose this time to travel? Do you have any relatives in the US? Have you ever been to the US before? For each question, I practiced giving full answers with strong vocabulary. For example, I work full-time as an engineer at Tornell. I've been with the company for over 3 years, and I'm currently on a scheduled vacation. Or, I chose this time to travel because it matches my work schedule and also allows me to be present for my brother's newborn baby. Adding details like currently scheduled vacation or matches my work schedule made my answer sound natural and real. I also practice follow-up sentences. These are extra details that show confidence. For example, I've prepared all the necessary documents, including my return ticket and my invitation letter. My trip is short, well-planned, and fully sponsored by my brother. The more I practiced these natural phrases, the more comfortable I became. I stopped thinking in my native language. I started thinking directly in English. It was during this stage that I noticed something powerful. Language learning isn't just about memorizing words. It's about using English to tell your story. And the more personal and real your story is, the more engaging it becomes. So I kept practicing. I recorded myself. I listened. I improved. Each day, I felt my speaking skills growing stronger, not just for the interview, but for everything else in life. I was learning to speak with purpose, and that was changing me. As the interview day got closer, I focused on one last, powerful area: body language and mindset. These are things people often ignore, but they make a big difference, especially when you're trying to communicate in another language. I practiced sitting up straight, making eye contact, and smiling gently. Not a big smile, just enough to show warmth and confidence. I realized that nonverbal communication is just as important as the words you speak. Even before I opened my mouth, I wanted to send this message: I am prepared. I am confident. I am honest. Then, I worked on managing nervousness. It's normal to feel anxious during an interview, especially in English. But nerves don't have to control you. I learned a few simple techniques. Deep breathing before speaking. Thinking positive thoughts like, I am ready, or I've practiced for this. Slowing down my speech so I didn't rush my words. I also reminded myself of one truth: the visa officer is just a human being. They are doing their job. They are not my enemy. They just want to hear clear, honest answers. I practiced some useful calming phrases like, let me take a moment to explain. I'd like to clarify that. Here's what I'd like to share. These phrases helped me stay calm if I got stuck or lost track of what I was saying. And I kept reminding myself, this isn't just an interview. This is my opportunity to show who I am. A responsible traveler, a caring brother, a prepared guest, a person who is growing and improving every day. The more I focused on this mindset, the more powerful my English became. Because it wasn't just about grammar, it was about energy. The energy in my voice, the energy in my eyes, the energy in my purpose. And I knew, no matter what happened at the interview, I had already gained something much more valuable, a new version of myself, more confident, more fluent, and more ready for the world. Finally, the day arrived. I walked into the embassy with my documents in hand, my answers in mind, and my heart steady. I wasn't just there to apply for a visa. I was there to show the result of all my effort, practice, and learning. When I reached the window and the officer greeted me, I felt a wave of calm. Everything I had prepared for came back to me, every phrase, every pause, every technique I had practiced. I stood tall, made eye contact, and spoke with clarity. The officer asked about the purpose of my trip. I answered with confidence, I'm going to visit my brother in Minneapolis. He recently had a baby, and I plan to stay with him and his family for 3 weeks. He asked about who would sponsor the trip. I calmly explained, my brother is sponsoring the trip. I have an invitation letter from him, and I'll stay at his home. Then came the question about my ties. I smiled and said, I work full-time as an engineer, and I'm on official vacation. I own a house and a car, and I'll return at the end of March to resume work. He looked at my documents briefly, nodded, and asked if I could support myself financially. I answered, yes, I am financially independent. I have savings, and here is my recent bank statement as proof. There was a pause. Then he looked up and said, thank you. Everything seems in order. And just like that, the interview was over. Walking out of the embassy, I felt something deeper than joy. I felt proud, not just because I had completed the interview, but because of the journey it took to get there. I had trained my voice, sharpened my English, and most importantly, grown as a person. This experience showed me that English is not just a subject, it's a tool. A tool for travel, for opportunity, for connection, for confidence. If you're preparing for something like this, I want you to know your effort matters. Every time you speak, write, or listen in English, you're building something powerful inside you. Keep going, keep learning, and one day, your story will inspire someone else too. Thank you for being a part of English Podcast Zone.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Stay. Remain. An amount that is almost but not exact. Approximately. Someone who takes the responsibility for a person applying for a visa. Sponsor. A formal letter asking a person to come to a place. Invitation letter. Responsibility that links a person to a place or a thing. Tie. Something that shows the thing is true. Evidence. Have enough money to live alone. Do not need help with money. Financially independent. Things that are worth money that you own. Assets. Let you have something. Grant. A person whose job is to interview people for visas. Visa officer. An official document that allows you to live in a country. Resident permit. Embassy. A piece of paper you have to put information on to make a formal request. Application form.
Let's try that faster.
Let you have something. Grant. Have enough money to live alone. Do not need help with money. Financially independent. A person whose job is to interview people for visas. Visa officer. Someone who takes the responsibility for a person applying for a visa. Sponsor. Embassy. An official document that allows you to live in a country. Resident permit. Something that shows the thing is true. Evidence. A formal letter asking a person to come to a place. Invitation letter. Responsibility that links a person to a place or a thing. Tie. Stay. Remain. Things that are worth money that you own. Assets. An amount that is almost but not exact. Approximately. A piece of paper you have to put information on to make a formal request. Application form.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Sponsor. Nike is sponsoring our sports team. Sponsor. If you apply for a visa to another country, you must have someone who can sponsor you and guarantee that you have enough money. Sponsor. My father sponsored my visa application. Tie. I sold my house and closed my bank account. I don't have any more ties to my home country. Tie. Alvin enjoyed being single. He wasn't ready for the ties of family life. Tie. Diplomatic relations have improved and the ties between the two countries are stronger. Evidence. The evidence shows that this man is guilty. Evidence. The bank needs evidence that you own a car or house. Evidence. The police are searching the house for evidence that can help them find the criminal. So you have no house, no car, no investments, and no money at all. In fact, you have no assets. The total value of the company's assets is more than $1 billion. We have about $100,000 in assets. Grant. My college granted me a scholarship for being a good student. Grant. The genie of the magic lamp told me that he will grant me 3 wishes. Grant. He was granted a medal for fighting in the war.